How's it going, guys? And I'm here with a review of Obi-Wan Kenobi for Disney Plus. So I figured I'd hold all my opinions, aside from what I've been writing on Twitter, for a YouTube video on this series. I wasn't going to do episode 1, 2, 3. I wasn't going to go through them one by one. I figured, let's just wait till the whole shebang is over. I'll hold my opinions for the end, and then just lay them all out for you guys. And that's exactly what I'm going to do right now. So what did I think of this show? It definitely was an interesting show. It was definitely far from perfect. It was also far from being very good. It was somewhere between decent, good, and sometimes just bordered on being boring. Now, Ewan McGregor put forth a pretty good performance. I even enjoyed young Leia. But the female cast of characters, I mean, this is where we got to talk about something. And Kathleen Kennedy, and it's really funny that a lot of people seem to have thought that Star Wars had been, SJW'd to hell in the sequel trilogy, when that really wasn't the case. There wasn't a lot of examples of it. People like to use Holdo from Last Jedi, but man, definitely not as bad here, where, at least you can say that some of those characters, I don't know about Holdo. I mean, she did play the bitch very well. She played a nasty superior, and, that was opposing Poe, and, there was some fun to be had there, but man, you've got Reva here, who is probably one of the most boring antagonists that there's ever been in Star Wars, without a doubt. And before there's so many people out there that are gonna jump on this. I know if you're listening to it and you're on that side of the aisle that believes Moses Ingram and all that outrage about her getting hateful comments, and there's like absolutely zero concrete proof of this. We just have some really shady looking DMs that don't even really look that authentic. They look kind of manufactured. I mean, you could go on any Star Wars Instagram, Twitter page, and you won't see anything. Most of the time, I'm actually seeing some rather polite criticisms of her work. It's basically the same thing I'm saying. A very unfulfilling villain. Star Wars has had some of the most classic villains of all time. We've got two good villains in the show, the Grand Inquisitor and the Fifth Brother, putting forth great performances. But for some odd reason, they're just side characters. They kill off the Grand Inquisitor very early on, and now he comes back later in the 5th episode. But, I mean, there was your potential there for villains. There was your potential right there. But what did you do? We had to have that female lead antagonist, so we're going to shove in Reva there. No character, no charisma, no nothing, just a monotone reading of lines. Meanwhile, you've got the super charismatic Grand Inquisitor and the Fifth Brother, with that very, cool type of speech pattern that he had. I mean, both of them having like cool ways of speaking and delivering their lines. But here we have Reva. I'm after Obi-Wan Kenobi. And it's just, that's not the villain we're looking for here. And dare I say that Darth Maul, who spoke one line of dialogue in episode 1, actually had a higher impact than Reva had on Star Wars as a whole. I mean, without a doubt. Not even counting the Clone War stuff. Yeah, I almost said Clown Wars. That does apply to what we're seeing here. This is some type of clownish type of casting that we're seeing. I mean, why would you cast her in this role? I mean, obviously you see that she's not really offering anything to this role. And then we have this character, Tala, who's, helping funnel Jedi and others to safety. And she's just a boring as hell character. And then when she finally bites the big one, she makes a sacrifice on the thermal detonator so everybody could get away from the from Reva and the stormtroopers. You don't really feel anything. You really don't. And yes, probably one of the better character dynamics is between Obi-Wan and Princess Leia. But here we get into some continuity issues. And here's the thing. Remember when the biggest continuity issue for Star Wars was Revenge of the Sith? When Princess Leia remarked in Return of the Jedi that she remembers her mother being sad. But then in Revenge of the Sith, at the end of the film, Padme dies after giving birth to Luke and Leia. So there's no possible way a newborn baby fresh out of the mother's womb could remember her mother. I mean, but whatever. We kind of looked the other way on that one. A lot of people cried foul on that, but, it was one thing. A director is allowed to have a, lapse of memory. I don't know, when there's not that many movies, how old George managed to do that. Don't think George really cared all that much. That's just what he wanted to do with Padme at the end of those films. So, whatever. But you would think that if you're going to take the project over from George Lucas, you're going to take the property after he sold it to you, you're going to have a little bit of respect for that source material. Disney did not write, did not produce, had no hand at all in the original trilogy. But you get this type of product here, and it just completely disrespects what came before it. Because, let's be perfectly honest here, Leia knows of Obi-Wan Kenobi, but she doesn't know him. And this has been debated a lot on Twitter from what I've seen. And, if you're on the side of the argument saying that she did know him, well, then you simply just weren't listening to the dialogue in A New Hope. Because when Luke and Obi-Wan listen to the full message that Leia leaves for Obi-Wan inside of R2-D2, she clearly states that you knew my father and you fought my father in the Clone Wars. She makes no mention of knowing him, doesn't know anything about the guy, aside from what she's been told from her father. He's a stranger. He is a mystery. He is like a man, a myth, a legend to her. She doesn't know him. But somehow now she does know him. And now apparently after watching the 6th and final episode, even Luke has now met Obi-Wan. And Uncle Owen is gotta be some type of bipolar maniac, because we're taking a look at what I believe was the first episode, and he's about to give away the location of Obi-Wan. He's about to tell Reva that he's there. And, he doesn't. He thinks better of it. But, he flirted with the idea. He wants him to stay away from Luke. And he states it quite clearly. And we see in A New Hope, he doesn't want anything to do with Obi-Wan. He doesn't want Luke hanging around with Obi-Wan. He's just a crazy old man, he tells him. So, how come, here he has a change of heart? All of a sudden, he's like, do you want to meet him? And Luke meets him. Obi-Wan gets to give him a gift. And somehow, some way, Luke doesn't really seem to have acted like he ever met him. He just says, oh, he's a crazy old man. But does he remember this memory of him? Just a little bit odd. And probably the biggest one to me, and let me just preface this by saying that the best parts of Obi-Wan are the scenes involving Hayden Christensen, and in the flashbacks that date back to when he is a Padawan still, and we see Darth Vader with James Earl Jones' voice, and we get a sort of fight in the 3rd episode, and in the season finale, which just aired, we get to see them have a full-fledged fight, and Obi-Wan pretty much kicks his ass. I mean, it's pretty even for a little bit, but he breaks open his helmet, And I'm just saying, like, should he have really, schooled them that bad there? I mean, I like to think that Darth Vader was unstoppable, between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope, but I'm taking a look at this, and it doesn't really seem that way. And here's the thing. I mean, now they've met several times. In A New Hope, when they meet up, doesn't Darth Vader say to Obi-Wan when he's aboard the Death Star, when last we met, I was but the learner, now I am the master? So that would make perfect sense. If he's talking about the last time he saw him was on Mustafar, and, and Obi-Wan bests him, he's still learning. He's not a Padawan, but he still is technically learning. So it does make sense. It's the perfect line of dialogue still. But now it's meaningless. Because now the line should really lead, when last we met several times, we fought and you pretty much kicked my ass, but now I'm the master. And not only that, he leaves him there, and lets him get away. After all he's done, and he knows what he's done. He's seen what he's done. And Reva has a change of heart. So because of everything going on with it, now they already had this stuff filmed. I don't know if maybe they squeezed in certain filming and kind of shoehorned it in there, because people were really saying this was a boring as hell character, and they were 100% correct with that. I mean, there were some really just horribly read lines here, just boring as hell dialogue from Reva. I mean, they made her do some cool things, but like her as a character, just so underwhelming. And that's putting it mildly. They wrote in this part of the story where she's actually one of the younglings. Now that's kind of interesting, but I don't know why she'd join up with Darth Vader, of all people, because Anakin was the one who killed the youngling, so why would she join up with him? Why would she join up with the man that almost, who killed all her friends and joined up? I don't know, maybe she was brainwashed or something. It's not really even explained. It's sloppy as hell storytelling, kind of like this whole entire thing. I mean, it makes a joke out of continuity. So, I mean, if you're going to do that and you're really going to, like, not even focus on the finer details, I mean, then I don't know what to tell you. I mean, those are basically the highlights. Vader pulling down the ship, the fight with Vader both times. I like, even when Obi-Wan can't even touch him and Vader creates the ring of fire around him. The last fight that they had was really good. I did enjoy a lot of that, but and the flashback between Anakin and Obi-Wan was certainly a lot of fun. But that's what it was. It was a lot of fun moments with not a lot of anything satisfying to hold it together. There was like no glue. In order to have a good story, can you imagine Star Wars? Like, let's take A New Hope. If all you had was the Death Star fight and, just a bunch of boring shit right before that. Well, I mean, that's kind of how I felt here. We want to have an excuse to have all these cool scenes in here, but we don't want to do any of the heavy lifting, like actually having interesting characters and interesting scenarios that lead into that great stuff. So I can't really say I fully enjoyed this. I mean, like I said, there's some good character dynamics, like Leia. I did not find her annoying. I know a lot of people said that. But when your villain is so obviously outmatched by the supporting cast, I mean, it just pretty much all falls apart for me. I mean, you need to have a good, satisfying villain, or, you're not going to interest me that much. And then at the end, in the last scene of the 6th episode, the season finale, we finally get what we've been waiting for. Liam Neeson reprising his role as Qui-Gon and finally talking to Obi-Wan Kenobi. And he only says, like, a sentence or two, and that's basically, he says, well, I've been here all along, you just weren't ready to see me. And like, that's basically it. That's like, you know, I was so disappointed at the end of Revenge of the Sith back in 2005 when Yoda says to Obi-Wan he's gonna teach him how to communicate with the dead, and he says Qui-Gon. I was like, oh shit, here comes Liam Neeson. Didn't get Liam Neeson. Then when the DVD came out, I said, oh, he must be in a deleted scene. He wasn't in the deleted scene. So here was the chance. I was hoping that we would see it, because we know that Obi-Wan was trying in certain episodes to speak to Qui-Gon, but he couldn't get it done because he wasn't ready. And here, when it finally happens, it's just not that satisfying. So, yeah, guys, I mean, this really was, I mean, what also really put a damper on this thing for me was also the whole Moses Ingram situation. I mean, look, you know, if the fans don't like you, they don't like you, okay? You're not the only actor to get a hard time about not putting in a very good performance. Look, you're not a very good actress. At least you're not here. I haven't seen your other work, but you're just not good. And thing is, like, you know, just take the criticism. You know, creating this outrage and then having the Star Wars official Twitter page start, you know, making accusations about fans and, you know, grouping them all together into a group was just really alarming. You know, and it only came about when people were not satisfied with this performance. And I'm sorry, you know, you don't get immunity, you know, just because you're a female actress. I mean, you know, this is what we saw with Rose Tico and you know, a bunch of others. You know, sorry, but if your character is not that interesting, you're not going to get a good reception from fans. I'm sorry. People are not going to tell you you're good when you aren't. So, you know, they'd be lying to you. We're supposed to sit there and say, we like every character we see before us. No, I'm sorry. You know, Tallow is just as boring, even more boring than Reva, to be quite honest. These were some boring ass characters. And they took away, you know, having Tala there especially. You know, before I wrap things up here, I just have to say about the Tala character. Totally unnecessary, way too much screen time. Making her, you know, seem more powerful than she really should be, taking out stormtroopers. You know, I get it, we want to have kick-ass female characters, but I'm sorry, you know, we're not going to endear you like a Han Solo. You know, we're not going to weep for when your character dies when you don't really have any interesting character dynamics to bring to the table. Simple as that. Simple as that. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah. I mean, I had fun watching these 6 episodes. I gotta say, like, I wasn't bored stupid during them. I definitely think that the weakest of the bunch is episode 4, which they really put a strong focus on Tala. But, you know, everything else was like, you know, they were pretty decent episodes. I had fun, but like, would I ever go back and rewatch this series? I don't really think so. I didn't really enjoy it that much. I mean, there were fun moments, but nothing so fun that I'd really want to experience them a second time. You know, and go through those episodes and see the uninteresting stuff that I wasn't really too crazy about, just to see the cool stuff that I was actually quite crazy about, but not crazy enough that I'd want to go back, if that makes any sense. I think it does. So guys, let me know what you think about Obi-Wan down in the comments below. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and click the bells to get all notifications when I post all my new videos. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, and hit the dislike button if you fucking hated it. And I want to thank all my patrons for your continued support, and I'll see you next time, guys.